Today on our line as our guest for an exclusive interview, localbozo.com is proud to have WWE Superstar and star of the new horror sequel, See No Evil 2, Glenn Kane Jacobs. Glenn, thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's been 8 years since you initially starred in the gore-filled See No Evil as the menacing Jacob Goodnight, probably the most well-received film that WWE has put out to date. When did you initially hear about talks for a sequel?
It would have been right after SummerSlam of last year, actually, or maybe right before. The ironic thing was I was going to take about 6 weeks off or so, and then I get a call that, they're going to do a sequel, which was surprising to me, because it had been so long after the first, after 2 years of like, well, probably not going to do a sequel. So that was a surprise, that they were going to carry through with it. But then, I was like, okay, well, this is going to be cool. And, then I saw that the Soska twins had signed on to do the movie. And frankly, I didn't know very much about them. And, so I had to do some research. And I was like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. And, then they gave me a copy of American Mary, which is just a great movie, actually. And I was like, well, if See No Evil 2 is anything like American Mary, it should be a winner. So I really started to look forward to doing it.
Your character on television is one that certainly seems to lend itself to this role. Based on your initial turn in the original film, is the sequel something that you had been hoping to tackle for quite a while, but had sort of given up on because it took so long, or?
Pretty much, yeah. Like I said, after about 2 years, I figured there wasn't going to be a sequel. But I think what happened was, the film division of WWE was going through a lot of changes. After See No Evil, and we had just different personnel, different visions, all that sort of thing. And then a couple of years ago, they hired Michael Luisi, who was a Hollywood veteran, as the head of WWE Films. And Michael has a very specific vision for the film division. And, it's to make genre movies. It's to put our guys, WWE Superstars, in roles in which they can succeed, which means that we might not always be the lead in the movie. For example, in The Call, we had Halle Berry as the lead, but nevertheless, we always play an important part in the movie. And then, like with See No Evil 2, and it was shot in 15 days. So, what he's trying to do is make profitable movies, but yet have quality movies, and make them as much as possible movies that are going to succeed.
In WWE's PG world, it's a bit surprising that the company is releasing a horror movie that's rated R, which is certainly going to appease fans just begging for a return to a product that caters more towards adults than to children. But how fulfilling was making the film for you personally, knowing that you'd be able to go all out with a script and with effects that wouldn't skimp on the slasher side of a true horror film?
Yeah, I mean, what's neat about See No Evil 2 is that, of course, it is a horror movie, but there's also a lot of other elements in it. It's not just a slasher flick. It has a good plot. It has very good characters. And then also, in See No Evil 2, we get to explore the mind of Jacob Goodnight a lot more, and we see the influence that his mom has had on him, and get into that further. So, it's really, a good old a throwback to the old-fashioned, 80s style slasher flicks.
The film is now officially available everywhere, both on video on demand as well as on DVD and Blu-ray. Though it's been 8 calendar years since the original's release, this one actually picks up a day after the original, where your character terrorizes a group of friends at a city morgue. How much of making this film came easier to you because of your work in the original, and what were some of the differences that you encountered this go-round?
The first of all, yeah, we shot a lot faster. Again, it was a 15-day shoot as opposed to the first movie was done over 2 months. So it was much more intense, and a much more environment of, urgency and getting things done as quickly as possible. The entire movie industry has changed. I mean, the technology is now different. The first scene was shot on film. This one was shot digitally. I think that helps the process move faster as well. Also, this was all shot. The first scene was shot on a soundstage. This is shot in an old mental hospital, which there's lots of stories about that. This is Riverview Mental Hospital outside of Vancouver, and it's been used for all sorts of stuff. The X-Files, Falling Skies, all sorts of television programs and movies have been shot there. So, I think my experience from the first movie, prepared me for the sort of hurry up and wait atmosphere of movies. Movies are somewhat like football in that, you have 10 seconds of frenzied activity and then a minute of standing around. Except in movies, it's a little longer. You have, 5 minutes or 2 or 3 minutes of frenzied activity and then 15 minutes of standing around. Or in some cases, getting ready and then sitting all day not doing anything and then a few minutes of frenzied activity and that's it. So I guess I was a little more prepared for sort of the business aspect of movie making.
The Kane character is one that it's actually celebrating its 17th anniversary in WWE this month. But you've been with the company for closer to 20 years. So with 2 decades in the wrestling business, how is your body feeling on a day-to-day basis, and are you still enjoying the grind?
Yeah, I still enjoy it. The hardest part about our job is the travel. People see what we do in the ring, and of course that is, that is physical. It is challenging. But I always find that it's the travel which gets to be more than anything. But I've been fortunate that I don't have, any really terrible injuries, so in that respect, I'm doing very well. And I also try to keep myself in as good a shape as I can. And I work out pretty much every day. And I'm still feeling good after all these years.
After so many years in the wrestling business, Glenn, does it become a challenge for you to get up for some of the non-televised live events in smaller towns? Considering the fact that you've performed in front of tens of thousands of fans in arenas and even in stadiums on other nights?
Sure. I mean, it is different, of course. But sometimes it's actually more fun to be in front of the smaller audiences because, you really do get that personal interaction. It becomes much more intimate, and you can have more fun. You can do stuff that you can't do in the bigger venue. It's different, but I wouldn't say that it's a challenge, to get up, for the smaller towns or anything like that.
Looking back on your career, what's perhaps your favorite match or even your favorite moment that you don't think gets the credit for or has had the lasting power that it probably deserves?
I'm not really sure. My favorite moment was beating Stone Cold Steve Austin for the WWE Championship. And the thing about that is that I only held it for a day, but nevertheless, the next night on Raw, the match between Austin and I drew the highest rating that Raw had drawn at that point. And it was, that felt like one of the launching points, for the Attitude Era. That was one of the, the points to where things shot up from there. And the fact that, there I am in the ring with arguably the guy that would go on to become the most popular wrestler in WWE history. And, I'm part of all that. So that was a really big moment for me. And there's been a lot of other stuff, of course, but as for my favorite moment, it would be that one.
As per usual, the roster has a full schedule coming up. Sunday, October 26th is Hell in a Cell from the American Airlines Arena in Dallas. But locally, New Yorkers can catch the WWE Live Holiday Tour, returning to Madison Square Garden on Friday, December 26th. We're based out of New York City, Glenn. Can you reflect a bit about what the New York market has been like for a Southern-bred guy like yourself over the years?
Well, Madison Square Garden is the most famous arena in the world, and definitely that's always a high point for us is to go to the Garden. It's unlike any other show that we do, And then of course having WrestleMania at the New York, New Jersey, at the stadium, was just awesome. Everything that surrounded that particular show. I mean, because, you're there and the entire world is watching you because it's coming from New York. And then, of course, also WrestleMania 20, which was the first WrestleMania in which I was unmasked and The Undertaker comes back. That was a big deal. And then the night before that, we had the Hall of Fame ceremony, which I inducted Pete Rose into Hall of Fame. So, there's just been all sorts of stuff, that's gone on in the New York area. And even after all these years, New York it's the home of WWE, and it's still the most important market that we go to.
We've heard a constant stream of promotion over the last 6 months for the WWE Network. As a current member of the roster, what do you find yourself going back to watch on the network most often?
Oh yeah, man, the WWE Network is great. Because I get to watch the stuff from when I was growing up, the stuff that I remember. And not only WWE. In fact, a while back I just watched a show from Madison Square Garden, and the main event was Hulk Hogan versus Big John Studd. It was Hulk Hogan versus John Studd at the Garden. And then just all the other stuff that's on the network too. The old stuff from WCW and the NWA before that, and the first Starrcade, and then world-class championship wrestling with the Von Erichs, and seeing the Freebirds and the Von Erichs go at it. It's just great, and that's what I watch, because I've lived through so much of the other stuff. I've been a part of so much of the other stuff. I'm really intrigued by the previous generations to myself. And that's, to me, that's the best part of the WWE Network is going back and watching the vault and watching the archives of all the stuff, from the early 80s in that time period.
Glenn, can't thank you enough for your time today. Is there anything else you'd like to leave for the readers of localbozo.com?
No, just thanks so much for the interview. As you said, Gino Evil 2 is coming out, and we're looking forward to seeing how the reception that it gets, and I'd just like to say hey to all the WWE fans, and thank them for all their support through the years.
Fans, you can catch Glenn, Kane, Jacobs, and all the superstars of the WWE locally at the Raw Holiday Tour at Madison Square Garden on Friday, December 26th. Make sure to pick up your copy of See No Evil 2, the new horror sequel, starring Kane, as we know him as Glenn Jacobs. He's been our special guest today. Kane, thanks so much for your time today from localbozo.com. Best of luck with the film and for the rest of the year, my friend.
Okay, appreciate it, man. Thank you.